Brief history of Tibetan Esoteric Buddhism, the secret to becoming a Buddha in one lifetime. Welcome back everyone to Mind Podcast. Is it true that Tibetan Esoteric Buddhism can lead to becoming a Buddha in just one lifetime? Or is it a form of heresy? This video seeks to present and explore a general overview of Tibetan Esoteric Buddhism. This broad and introductory understanding is essential for those seeking to learn the teachings and practices of Tibetan Esoteric Buddhism, providing a reference to guide them on their path toward the truth of the Buddhas. Each sentient being is born into human life, unique attributes and capabilities, so everyone must choose the practice method that suits them. In Tibetan Esoteric Buddhism alone, there are numerous distinct schools, each with thousands of different practices. It is impossible to study them all within a single lifetime. Therefore, one must select and dedicate themselves to the path that is most appropriate for their spiritual journey. The history of Buddhism in the world, through the turning of the Dharma wheel. To understand Buddhism and its role in the path to enlightenment, let us explore the origins and history of Indian Buddhism. We know that Shakyamuni Buddha was born into the human world with the noble vow to help sentient beings solve the problem of life and death. At that time, India was under a monarchical system. In terms of material life, the people lived in hardship within a society based on unjust and oppressive caste divisions, which included the following main classes. Brahmins, priests responsible for religious rituals and worship, who claimed the right to be revered and led lives of privilege and luxury. Kshatriyas, the royal and noble class, holding political power and authority over the people. Vaishyas, merchants and landowners. Shudras, the servant class, destined to spend their lives in servitude to the higher caste. Additionally, there was an outcast group, referred to as untouchables, who did not belong to any caste. They were considered even lower than animals, shunned by society, and forced to live lives of extreme suffering and humiliation. In terms of spirituality, Indian society at that time was also living in a state of turmoil. Religious movements and philosophical systems were in utter disarray. Various forms of belief and doctrines emerged, from worshipping worldly gods and deities like Brahma, fire gods, river gods, mountain gods, as well as practices like asceticism or the worship of animals. There were philosophies of all kinds, from the concrete to the abstract, developing theories about time and space, advocating monism, dualism, pluralism. Hundreds of different sects constantly engaged in debates, attacking and criticizing each other. Scholars of that era all considered themselves the most skilled in reasoning and debate. Meanwhile, the common people were suffering under the oppressive rule of unjust social classes, and the theories of these scholars did nothing to alleviate the hardship of the impoverished. The entire society was in chaos, both materially and spiritually, under the influence of these disruptive heretical teachings. In such a state, Shakyamuni Buddha was born and revealed the true path, guiding sentient beings toward successful spiritual cultivation. He practiced saha work and beneficial conduct by embarking on a journey of self-discovery and experimentation with the correct path. Starting from the noble status of a prince, he renounced his family, wealth, and personal ties, and left to pursue the life of a renunciate. He practiced asceticism for years, only to realize that it was not the way to achieve full enlightenment. Thereafter, he devoted himself to deep meditation under the Bodhi tree, developing prajna wisdom. During the 7th week, on the 49th day, just before dawn, he attained complete and perfect enlightenment. After attaining supreme prajna wisdom and full enlightenment, he continued to meditate by the Niranjana river. The deity Brahma Sahampati appeared to praise the Buddha, recognizing that he had achieved the Samyak Sambodhi, perfect and complete enlightenment. The Buddha meditated and contemplated sentient beings who were still mired in desire and worldly pleasures. He reflected that this profound and perfect enlightenment was truly deep, mysterious, and difficult to grasp. It was tranquil, sublime, and beyond the realm of reasoning. Only those with virtuous wisdom could truly understand it. The omniscient wisdom he attained was indescribable and beyond the scope of conceptual thought, making it extremely difficult to teach to sentient beings still immersed in worldly desires. Among the heretical doctrines, the concepts of karmic law and dependent origination, as well as emptiness, are very difficult to comprehend. Similarly, nirvana, which signifies the cessation of all causes, conditions, karmic retribution, and the extinguishing of all desires, leading to ultimate tranquility and bliss, is also challenging to grasp. If the Tathagata were to teach these doctrines, people would surely not understand them, making such efforts in vain. The Buddha further contemplated, it was extremely difficult for the Tathagata to attain this supreme Bodhi wisdom. Yet, people's minds are still steeped in desire and anger, making it hard for them to comprehend. Those who are clouded by desire are like travelers lost in the darkness or enshrouded by thick black clouds, unable to perceive this profound and all-encompassing truth. At that moment, the deity Brahma Sahampati, fearing that the Buddha would not spread the Dharma, worried that the world would be deprived of the opportunity to hear the teachings and would be led to ruin. He thus respectfully requested the Buddha 3 times to turn the Dharma wheel. Thanks to this, the world-honored one accepted, using skillful means to guide sentient beings, giving those who wished to hear the supreme Dharma the opportunity to do so. Immediately, the heavenly beings rejoiced and praised the Buddha for his compassion in remaining in the world to turn the Dharma wheel. Through skillful means, he taught and guided sentient beings who were drowning in the suffering of samsara. As promised, the Buddha remained in the world for 49 years, manifesting in all 3 realms and propagating the supreme teachings. The world-honored one turned the Dharma wheel 3 times in our Saha world, knowing that sentient beings possess different capacity, some bright, some dull, not all equal. Therefore, he could only educate them through skillful means, guiding them step by step, from easy to difficult, rather than diving directly into the core truths. The world-honored one spread the Dharma for 49 years for the benefit of sentient being. According to Theravada Buddhism, he remained in the world for 45 years, sometimes teaching about the self and sometimes about non-self. Ultimately, these teachings were just skillful means, like giving medicine according to the illness, tailored to the capacities and stages of sentient beings' spiritual development. From the perspective of exoteric teachings, this is how it was. However, the viewpoint of esoteric teachings differs slightly, which will be discussed in later sections. The Buddha turned the Dharma wheel 3 times, gradually guiding sentient beings. During the first 2 turnings, the world-honored one taught provisional and incomplete doctrines as skillful means to match the minds of sentient beings. In the 3rd turning, the Buddha taught the definitive doctrine, the supreme teachings of ultimate truth. These core teachings include prajna wisdom, the emptiness of all things, the middle way, 3 natures, and the 3 non-natures. During the first turning of the Dharma wheel, the Buddha taught the foundational doctrines of Hinayana through the 4 noble truths and the 12 links of dependent origination. This period laid the groundwork for what would later become the Hinayana schools, also known as Theravada or the Sarvastivada tradition. The primary scriptures from this period include the 4 agamas and the Dirgha Agama, long discourses. During the second turning of the Dharma wheel, the Buddha taught prajna, wisdom, emptiness, and the 2 aspects of non-self. These teachings prepared the way for the Mahayana, leading to the development of core Mahayana doctrines, including the emptiness of all phenomena. The scriptures from this period include the Prajnaparamita Sutras, such as the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra, the Astasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutra, Perfection of Wisdom in 8,000 verses, and the Diamond Sutra. During the 3rd turning of the Dharma wheel, the Buddha taught the middle way, which belongs to the Mahayana and later Mahayana periods. The key scriptures from this time include the Sandinirmokana Sutra, Flower Garland Sutra, Avadamsaka Sutra, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, and the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. During the Buddha's lifetime, there was no distinction between Theravada and Mahayana. At that time, all were simply the teachings of the Buddha, guiding the Sangha from the first to the last discourse. Before the Buddha entered parinirvana, we can look back at the entire body of teachings he left for. By combining and synthesizing the methods he taught in a systematic order, we can classify them into 2 categories: provisional teachings, expedient means, and ultimate teaching. These also include the original gate and the traced gate. helping us clearly see the steps that Shakyamuni Buddha took to guide us, holding our hands and leading us gradually on the path from easier practices to more difficult ones, till we are ready to step onto the supreme path of Buddhahood. Ultimately, as his disciples, we must all strive towards this goal. The world-honored one taught us the process of spiritual cultivation using the analogy of a musician tuning a stringed instrument. If the strings are too tight, they will snap. But if they are too loose, the instrument will not produce sound. In the same way, practitioners must choose their methods of practice according to their abilities. The Buddha began by teaching the Four Noble Truths, impermanence, karmic law, and the 12 links of dependent origination. Then, he moved on to meditation practices that involve analyzing the mind, eliminating false views and ignorance, and transcending the ego. After this, practitioners were guided into the practice of non-duality, leading to deep meditation, realization of emptiness, and attainment of the Arhat fruit, where all desires are extinguished, and the practitioner resides in a state of serene tranquility. However, one must not become attached to this tranquil state of nirvana, but instead re-enter the world to liberate all sentient beings. This is the Bodhisattva's path, characterized by self-enlightenment, the enlightenment of others, and the perfection of wisdom. Each stage of practice is a level of realization connected to a specific meditation focus, leading to the next stage of progress. Thus, the provisional methods create temporary goals and temporary achievements, such as the 4 stages and the 4 noble fruits. These stages begin with mindfulness meditation on the 4 foundations to eliminate the 4 inverted views, gradually mastering the 4 noble truths. The provisional path for Shravakas, disciples, and Prayeka Buddhas, solitary Buddhas, was established to help sentient beings progress steadily on the long path without becoming discouraged. Each realization of a specific focus should not lead to complacency or the belief that it is sufficient. Instead, it builds a foundation and generates joy in the heart, encouraging further practice in subsequent methods until one reaches the supreme method and ultimately attains Buddhahood. This was the very path the Buddha himself followed, progressing through various stages until he achieved Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, unsurpassed, complete, and perfect enlightenment. Considering this historical process, we can conclude that all the teachings mentioned above are part of the public or exoteric teachings, also known as Hiangao. The teachings of wisdom, to be contrasted with the esoteric teachings, Mutgao. These exoteric teachings were openly taught and transmitted by the Buddha, Shakyamuni, to his disciples. In Tibetan Buddhism, these exoteric teachings are also referred to as the vehicle of the sutras. At the same time, there were also secret oral teachings passed down privately, according to the capacities and readiness of individual disciples. The exoteric teachings complement and supplement the secret oral teachings, allowing each disciple to fully develop their potential and directly advance on the path. When we reflect on the entire process of the Buddha's 49 years of teaching, we gain the wisdom to synthesize and realize that all these teachings are merely different methods to be practiced, depending on the stages of one's spiritual progress and mental capacity. Ultimately, all paths converge to a single goal: cutting off desire, realizing the emptiness of self, and practicing the Bodhisattva path. After the Buddha's parinirvana, passing into final nirvana, his entire body of teachings was recorded during 4 great councils. The exoteric teachings were compiled into the Tripitaka, the 3 collections of scriptures, which includes the sutras, the Vinaya, discipline, and the Abhidharma, higher teachings. The esoteric teachings, meanwhile, were gathered in Tibet into 2 collections known as the Tantras, referred to as Jur and Kanyur in Tibetan, and Tanjur and Kongyur in Chinese. New practitioners often have basic questions when starting their spiritual journey, particularly about choosing the right school of practice for themselves. One of the most common questions often encountered is, what is the difference between the main Buddhist schools, including 1. Zen Buddhism, 2. Pure Land Buddhism, and 3. Esoteric Buddhism, or Vajrayana? The briefest answer is that the difference lies in the method of practice. The goal of enlightenment is the same for all, but the means to achieve it, or the paths leading to the common goal of enlightenment, differ. All these schools use meditation as a tool, but the way meditation is applied to achieve enlightenment varies as follows. Zen Buddhism is based on the realization of emptiness. The most representative saying of Zen is, "The nature of all things is inherently empty." Thus, Zen practitioners use meditation to enter deep states of concentration through practices like the 4 foundations of mindfulness, directly realizing emptiness, breaking the attachment to the self, and achieving the peaceful state of nirvana. The principle is as follows. All phenomena are illusions. All illusory phenomena are empty. Emptiness is bliss. Bliss is the mandala of all Buddhas. The Lankavatara Sutra also reveals, the world is free from birth and death, like flowers in the sky. There is neither being nor non-being, so one should awaken great compassion. All phenomena are like illusions beyond the grasp of the mind. There is neither being nor non-being, so one should awaken great compassion. The world is like a dream, free from extremes of permanence or annihilation. There is neither being nor non-being, so one should awaken great compassion. Pure Land Buddhism also uses meditation as a foundation, focusing on reciting the name of Amitabha Buddha as taught in the Amitabha Sutra to achieve single-mindedness and be reborn in the Pure Land. Esoteric Buddhism, Vajrayana, is based on the practice of deity yoga. Practitioners visualize themselves day and night as transforming into their chosen Buddha or deity, immediately identifying with the enlightened being. This practice is referred to as becoming a Buddha in one lifetime. So, what is Esoteric Buddhism? Esoteric Buddhism refers to the secret teachings of the Buddha, conveyed in mystical language and intended for those who have practiced for many years. For seasoned practitioners, Esoteric Buddhism may be familiar, but for those just beginning to explore it, the term is likely new and intriguing. Esoteric Buddhism means the secret teachings. Practices meant to be revealed only to those who are ready to receive them. Esoteric Buddhism is a Sino-Vietnamese term commonly used to describe a practice that originates from a combination of Hinduism and Mahayana Buddhism. In the simplest understanding, secret, referring to the hidden teachings of a particular sect. These secrets, or esoteric teachings, are transmitted through sacred mantras, hand gestures, mudras, and incantations used by the Buddhas. Esoteric Buddhism is also known by various other names such as Vajrayana, Diamond Vehicle, or Mantrayana, Path of Mantras. This method is classified as definitive, ultimate truth, and is based on secret oral transmissions, forming the foundation of its practice. Esoteric Buddhism is divided into 2 major schools, Vajrayana and Mantrayana. The development of this practice is closely linked to numerous influential scholars and practitioners contributed to its growth, ultimately making Esoteric Buddhism a dominant religion in Tibet and spreading it to many other countries in Asia. 2. The origins and development of Esoteric Buddhism. Esoteric Buddhism developed between the late 5th and early 6th centuries in southern India, and during this period, it split into 2 main schools, Mantrayana and Vajrayana. The foundations of esoteric thought were formed during the early phases of Buddhism and were clearly reflected in the mantras found in Buddhist scriptures, such as the Peacock Sutra. After the second half of the 7th century, Hinduism began to explore and study Buddhist doctrines and theories. However, Mahayana Buddhism was limited by its focus on theoretical teachings and could only provide guidance on philosophical and ethical thought. As a result, Buddhism gradually distanced itself from the broader masses. At the same time, in India, there were increasing occurrences of mystical and metaphysical phenomena. To retain these powerful mystical aspects, Mahayana Buddhism began to integrate more closely with Hinduism and Brahmanism. Through perseverance and overcoming difficulties, Esoteric Buddhism managed to establish itself as an independent system within Mahayana Buddhism. The transmission of this method originated from the Buddha Vairocana, Mahavairakana, and was passed down to Vajrasattva. From there, Esoteric Buddhism spread to the north, reaching Tibet, China, and Japan, and further expanded into southern regions like Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. This led to the formation of 2 primary branches, Southern Esoteric Buddhism, Theravada Esotericism, and Northern Esoteric Buddhism, Vajrayana. 3. Esoteric Buddhism, perspectives in various countries. Esoteric Buddhism holds different perspectives and interpretations depending on the country in which it is practiced. These interpretations have shaped the development and influence of esoteric Buddhism around the world. Esoteric Buddhism has been transmitted and taught to disciples through oral transmission. This is one of the reasons why this school has not been widely disseminated, and only those with the right karmic conditions could learn about it. However, with the development of information technology today, esoteric Buddhism has spread to many different countries and has become more accessible. It is particularly prevalent in countries like China, Tibet, and Japan. Esoteric Buddhism in China. Esoteric Buddhism in China became known in the 8th century through the teachings of 3 famous Indian monks, Shubhakarsiha, Vajrabodhi, and Amoghavajra. When esoteric Buddhism developed in China, many Chinese monks recognized the significance of Buddhism during this period, and they began to teach a doctrine that integrated Zen, Pure Land Buddhism, and other Chinese schools of thought. This practice flourished during the Tang Dynasty. However, over time, esoteric Buddhism in China declined and eventually almost disappeared. Esoteric Buddhism in Tibet. Before esoteric Buddhism appeared in Tibet, there was no clear religious tradition there. The only indigenous practice was the Bun religion, where people primarily worshipped deities, wrathful spirits, and demons. Esoteric Buddhism was introduced to Tibet in the late 8th century when King Trisong Detsen invited 2 Indian masters, Shantarakshita and the great Guru Padmasambhava, to spread the teaching. Vajrayana Buddhism, together with Mahayana Buddhism, fused to form the spiritual foundation of Tibetan Buddhism. In Tibet, there are 4 major esoteric Buddhist schools: Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya, and Jilug. Only after undergoing special initiation rituals and practicing under a qualified lama are disciples permitted to learn and practice esoteric Buddhism. Esoteric Buddhism in Japan. Esoteric Buddhism was introduced to Japan at the end of the 8th century and the beginning of the 9th century. Its arrival had a profound impact on Japanese Buddhist practices, and it continues to play a significant role in Japanese religious life. This practice, esoteric Buddhism, was transmitted by 2 great masters, the first being the Venerable Master Kukai, also known as the Patriarch of Japanese Esoteric Buddhism, Shingon, and the second being Master Saicho, who is considered the founder of Tendai Buddhism in Japan. Kukai traveled to China to study under the great Master Huiguo, and upon returning to Japan, founded the Shingon School. This school became increasingly prosperous and played a crucial role in Japanese Buddhism. Esoteric Buddhism in Vietnam. Esoteric Buddhism was introduced to Vietnam in the 6th century when an Indian monk named Vinny Taruchi arrived and translated the Mahayana Dharani Sutra, Phapon Temple. This sutra is closely associated with esoteric practices and linked with various Zen and esoteric traditions in Vietnam. Practice flourished during the Ding and early Lei dynasty. At Hualu, Ninh Binh, during the Din and Lei Dai Han eras, Buddhist texts like the Ushnisha Vijaya Dharani Sutra were carved into stone pillars, indicating the prevalence of esoteric Buddhism at the time. Since its establishment in Vietnam, temples have opened classes to teach Vietnamese monks about esoteric Buddhism. In 1936, Zen Master Nun Te became the first Vietnamese monk to receive the teachings of Tibetan lamas. This master had many opportunities to engage with esoteric practices in various countries, and since then, practice has grown more widespread in Vietnam. Who does esoteric Buddhism worship? Before fully understanding esoteric Buddhism, many people mistakenly believed that this school was heretical, thinking that it falsely claimed to represent the Buddha, but actually worshiped demons and malevolent deities. However, once practitioners received proper and detailed instruction in this practice, they realized that esoteric Buddhism is not heretical, but instead venerates the Buddhas, particularly those in the Vajrayana tradition. Common representations in Vajrayana Buddhism include the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, also known as the 5 Wisdom Buddhas, which include Vairocana, Akshobhya, Ratnasambhava, Amitabha, and Amoghasiddhi. Esoteric Buddhism also honors various bodhisattvas, such as Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin, Manjushri, Samantabhadra, Kshitigarbha, and the 1,000-armed Avalokiteshvara. Other deities include the Guru Padmasambhava, the 6-armed Mahahala, and Tara. The 8 great protectors in Tibetan esoteric Buddhism include Yama, the Lord of Death, Mahakala, the great black deity, Yantaka, the subjugator of death, Kubera, the god of wealth, Hayagriva, the horse-headed deity, and others, such as Brahma, the white deity, and Pesi, the god of war. Conditions and rituals for practicing esoteric Buddhism. Many Buddhists are now studying esoteric Buddhism and practicing this path, believing it to be one of the methods that offer exceptional benefits for overcoming obstacles in life. However, to practice esoteric Buddhism effectively and experience its sacred power, you must understand the following rituals and conditions for the path. Conditions for practicing esoteric Buddhism. Esoteric Buddhism is considered one of the most profound and sacred practices. If you intend to follow this path, you must possess a sincere and compassionate heart, with a deep understanding of impermanence and emptiness. Additionally, you should commit to a safe and positive method of taking refuge in the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and maintain the most positive direction in your practice. Rituals for practicing esoteric Buddhism. The rituals of esoteric Buddhism are diverse and require solemnity and discipline. Monks must observe these practices strictly throughout their period of spiritual training. The rituals that are key to esoteric practice include: for higher-level esoteric practices, monks should prepare an isolated place, such as a cave, a sacred forest, or a remote temple. The duration of these retreats can range from 1 week to 3 years. The ascetic practitioners follow a strict schedule, which includes reciting the Great Compassion Mantra 108 times, the Mantra of Rebirth 1,180 times, and the Kundi Mantra to achieve spiritual efficacy. These practices are often combined with the use of a large wooden fish, mum, to maintain rhythm during chanting. The ascetic practitioners also ensure their meditation room is clean, spacious, and free from distraction. For lay practitioners, having a dedicated room for practice is essential, and they should not be burdened with family matters. A strong commitment to the practice is required. Offerings and ritual items. Esoteric practitioners often use offering items such as incense burners, flowers, and prayer flag. Chanting tools include the mandala, vajra, thunderbolt scepter, and bells. The vajra is a significant symbol in both Buddhism and Hinduism, particularly in Vajrayana esoteric Buddhism. It represents indestructibility and spiritual power. The vajra is symbolic of Buddha nature, which is unbreakable and eternal. Cross vajra is another ritual item, symbolizing psychological aspects of Buddhist practice. Its design reflects the unchanging nature of Buddha's wisdom, which remains unshakable and powerful, just like a diamond that cannot be cut or destroyed. The three-pronged vajra is crossed to form a cross shape, symbolizing the inherent wisdom and activity of the Buddhas, associated with the wheel of Dharma. In the practice of rituals, the four corners of the large altar often have small vajras placed, symbolizing the destruction of the 12 links of dependent origination. This sacred object is called the cross vajra, or vajra cross. The vajra bell is a musical instrument commonly used in esoteric Buddhist rituals and is considered indispensable. Each time the bell rings, it resonates throughout space, dispelling afflictions, evil spirits, and negative energies. The vajra bell is paired with the vajra scepter. The handle of the vajra bell is shaped like half of the vajra scepter, while the other half forms the body of the bell, which is relatively large. Together, these two parts combine to create the beautiful form of the Dharma realm bell. The vajra bell has three main components: the vajra peg, the handle, and the bell itself. These three parts represent the three realms: the desire realm, form realm, and the formless realm. Dear friends, we hope this information has helped you gain a clear understanding of this practice. With sincere chanting and dedication, it can bring you the best results and guide you toward a brighter future.
Buddha's teachings. What comes through adequate conditions will arrive. Do not force attachment. Do not covet. What arrives through adequate conditions will dissolve once those conditions cease. Waiting or coveting yields nothing. Human life is very short, without time for regrets. Do not be overly troubled by people or things that cause you distress, even for just a minute. Encounters and separations all have their destined connections. Abiding by them and finding peace accordingly is the best way to achieve goodness. As a child, happiness is very simple. As we grow up, being able to live simply is true happiness in life. Because of excessive expectations, we become disappointed. Because our dreams are far-fetched, they dissipate. Holding on to too much makes it difficult. Keeping something can make some people unable to forget it because it's unbearable, while others must forget it as it's not worth remembering us. We are weary because we are hesitating between persistence and letting go. Sometimes we understand but do not want to accept the truth. Who enters your life is influenced by destiny, but whether to stay long or leave quickly is up to yourself. No explanations bring peace, not being stubborn leads to enlightenment, and not seeking perfection makes life acceptable. No matter how well you live, there will be praise and criticism. No matter how successful you are, people will always comment positively and negatively. There will be admirers and haters. Some may be jealous, others may have nothing against you. Life is like that. You cannot please everyone, so do not lose your true self just to satisfy others. Everyone needs their own principles and self-respect. How others talk about you does not represent you entirely, as there are many different versions. You just need to be yourself, and that is enough. Being a good person does not require everyone to love you. Just be straightforward and generous. Flowers have many shapes and varieties, yet they can still showcase their colors and spread fragrance without hesitation. Everyone lives life in their own style. Why not support and uplift each other, or belittle each other? If you feel worthy, cherish happiness. Keep those who make you happy close, and love those who touch your heart. Being a good person is not easy, not entirely easy either. It involves influencing thousands of hearts or managing the mouths and tongues of the world. Of course, being a good person is not easy, nor is speaking difficult. Just maintain a good-heartedness to be a gentle person and follow your own path. So when facing storms, just remind yourself that after passing through the marshlands, the sun will naturally appear. Don't bother complaining or sighing in front of others, as speaking to them won't matter. Letting go of some things will make you feel lighter. Remembering some people suddenly will make you happy. A few pains and clear thoughts will make you stronger. Being overly concerned with one issue will only confuse you. In reality, even the simplest matters become complicated if you think too much. Just keep a calm mindset and an open heart, and everything will pass by simply and lightly. Human life passes very quickly. If you can move beyond transient fame, you can reach true things. When life encounters complex issues, resolve them gently and let go of unnecessary entanglements so that your heart can be at peace and you can move forward. Yielding to others avoids petty congestion. Expanding your vision outward allows you to see the rainbow after the rain. Packing your baggage lightly enables you to travel freely on the long road. With a steady mind, the most beautiful scenery is not what the eyes see, but what the heart perceives. Deep emotions do not need to be spoken. They can be recognized through actions. Whenever things do not go as expected, remember the behavior of water, soft and gentle, mild and quiet, yet strong. Then transform things without disputing or arguing. If everyone could cultivate to that realm, there would be no worries for the world. A calm heart is not fixed. If you see the good in everyone and find meaning in everything, you will find life joyful and the world beautiful. If you approach life with goodwill, everything becomes karma obstacles. The world will become filthy, and many people will be detestable. Hoping to be more beautiful is in fact the best method to be beautiful, is to maintain inner purity and a joyful spirit. This beauty makes others feel light-hearted, unresentful, and not exhausted. In reality, what you receive in this life is the result of what you have created before. What you are doing now will receive results later. Life continues this way. If you are aware, you can limit many negative thoughts and not burden others when encountering unfavorable or frustrating events. Merit comes from diligence and a selfless lifestyle. Start with a compassionate heart, help the poor with gratitude, repay kindness, and in all things and people. If you have faith, karma will not bring disasters or regrettable events in life. Always respect others and exchange tolerance, appreciation, and acceptance. 100 rivers then become wide. This life has two things we cannot avoid. One is to move forward, and the other is to stop. Use a positive mind to advance. A positive mood is the best companion, helping you stay cheerful and healthy with those near and far. If there is a destined connection, it should involve fostering good relationships. Because daily life is not low, in urgent times, embracing the Buddha is futile. so you must know how to accumulate human relationships. Like a bank account, the more time you deposit, the higher the benefits. When encountering matters, do not be impatient. Do not jump to conclusions quickly. Especially when angry, you must know how to place yourself in many positions to see things, making matters larger or smaller. Making matters smaller does not erase complex issues, but they should be resolved as gently as possible. Do not make things simple into a mess. Be mindful enough. Most of the world's worries stem from pointless comparisons, thinking that easily someone is inferior to you. Of course, there are people you cannot be friends with. When you complain about not being beautiful enough, remember those who cannot even walk. If your opponent makes you angry, it shows you have not yet overcome them. They turn around and see who is insulting you, which is unnecessary. Like when a rabid dog bites you, do you have to fight it back? If you are angry, do not care too much about the evil words of others. Do not see work as a burden. See it because of Buddha. Be patient in anger. Face work cheerfully and positively. See work as life being art. You will enjoy the joy it brings. Living another day is also just a minute, so know to cherish human life, which is only a few decades. Do not do things that cause yourself to deeply regret. The sun rises from the East Sea, sets in the Western Mountains, sadness passes, joy does too. A day without being troubled by trivial matters will make life peaceful and the spirit light. Live life sideways, return to sitting still, be calm. After the rain comes the sun, anger and sorrow become calm acceptance. Do not clutch your belongings on the way, wander, or live in the midst of the rain to soak in the world of wild strawberries. As days pass quickly, do not hold on to too many dreams. Stop throwing bait to catch shadows. Be intact today, seeing the perpetual cycle of the four seasons change the dream clothes, overlapping illusions inviting awakening. If winter comes and life has not yet ended, live correctly now. Do not dream. Awakening when life falls into the dream, we come to this world. Self-respect has only two great things, birth and death. One thing is completed, only one remains, so there is no need to rush. What arrives through adequate conditions will dissolve once those conditions cease. Waiting or coveting yields nothing. A person with wisdom does not live by the world's tongue, nor fears the gaze of the world. Just understand your own heart, observe your own virtues and flaws, and gradually make corrections as a way of self-cultivation. The most unsteady life is not having a spiritual support, not knowing where to turn to. Whether you are aware or not, whether you admit it or not, but if your heart only contains good things, nothing can make you troubled. If your inner self is truly kind, you will never resent anyone. If your way of living is truly deceitful, then no matter how chaotic the world is, it cannot affect you. Being a good person means being healthy, at peace, and having sound sleep. Doing good means heaven understands, earth knows, and spirits respect you. If you do not doubt, the world will not be cold. If you do not discriminate, the world will not be distant. If you do not sell your fate, the sky will always be warm. If you do not cause trouble, the four seas will remain peaceful. True tranquility is not sitting still for hours, but knowing how to use a calm mindset, observe all things, and listen to the sounds of flowers and grass growing. Stability and sustainability come from the inner self. Wishing or seeking externally will never be achieved. Humans strive, work hard all their lives, but when life flows away, they cannot take a single leaf. If you drag on a lifetime, in the end, you cannot carry even a small leaf. Glory and death are both born. Whether rich or poor, they go through the entire journey, and everyone must say farewell. One lifetime is actually very short. Many who promise to live 100 years turn around and become someone else. Overbearing people also have their own issues. When the heart is adjusted, the yin and yang methods distinguish, so when there is still a chance, do not cause regretful matters. Do not think too much, do not pay too much attention, do not covet too much. Being a good person with little money is okay, but do not have a poor will. Do not let a lack of money make your vision narrow. Although you cannot reach glory, you should still be friendly. Being outwardly unappealing is okay, but do not let your inner self be ugly. A good person's character does not depend on outward appearance, but originates from the heart. Being physically small is okay, but do not let your heart be incomplete. The outward appearance is that no one likes those with a narrow heart. Even with a small back and thin body, a kind heart can comfort countless people. Being a bit weak physically is okay, but do not let your spirit be frail. Weak people tend to be pessimistic and self-deprecating, so you must cultivate a courageous spirit, have initiative and confidence. Being a bit slow with hands and eyes is okay, but do not let your mind be confused. Always remind yourself to keep a clear mind to see far and wide. Being a bit callous is okay, but definitely do not become too cruel to avoid turning into a demon. Otherwise, if you don't go to hell, who will? Being slightly smart is okay, but definitely do not think you are the best while everyone else is inferior. Otherwise, the world will only see you as dangerous. Being a bit lazy is okay, but never be lazy all day. Changing the necessary work is to try to do it completely. Have a heart to contribute a little. If you do not want to be a parasite, cling to society. Being a little frugal is okay, but do not be too calculating because of money. Otherwise, you will have the habit of evaluating others by money and will soon or later become its slave. Being a bit tolerant is good, but do not let others invade or take advantage of your tolerance to continue committing faults. In any case, you should keep your own rules and self-respect. Being a bit miserable is okay, but do not let the suffering last. Without a method to liberate, you must learn to overcome. Some things arise that you can only accept. Some people are lost that you can only let go. Some road sections are chosen that you can only step forward. Many good things come from waiting, not from seizing. Therefore, have patience if you do not want to miss happiness. Enjoy all the big and small things that arise in life, because tomorrow when you rest, you will realize their true value. They are all very important. Many things must wait until they become memories. I just realized the value they carry. If it is truly destined, then time or distance is not a problem. If it is not destined, even if you meet again, everyone will go their own way. Perhaps a person needs to go through many roads, experience many glories and hardships to grow up. When you see a person clearly without saying, you will understand the meaning of forgiveness. Not liking someone without turning around, you will feel the pinnacle of respect. A mature person is not because they live long, travel everywhere, and experience many things, but because they know when to let go or be tolerant to limit the struggle for possessions. Everyone in their heart has borne various pains, not because they have passed, but because they know speaking does not resolve anything, only making themselves weaker. Maturity is being able to keep a full smile while transforming suffering into happiness. No matter how terrible current life is, you need to courageously face it. Do not think about mixing up and avoiding, and even less about cursing and complaining. In life, there are many things that do not have to follow your will to be good. The sun does not rise late because you are not happy. The moon does not end the night early because you are troubled. Rolling your eyes does not mean the world will turn into night. A dark heart blurs people's vision. Also, it is not certain that light will belong solely to you. In life, there are only hammers and axes that are not sharp enough, but there is no type of grass that cannot be cut down. The work only has people who have not yet thought of a complete method. Nothing is impossible to accomplish. If desired, people will think of ways, otherwise they will find reasons. Life is like a glass of water, whether hot or cold, the suitable temperature can be drunk. The flavor, sweet or bitter, just needs to suit the taste. Delicious is good. Using it quickly or slowly is good for hearing. 4 seasons continue, regardless of spring, summer, autumn, winter. If it suits the mood, it is all good. Life is not war, so there is no need to classify saints among people. If sympathy increases, misunderstandings decrease between affairs and things. If yielding increases, struggles decrease. Some things require patience. Some people require yielding. You cannot fight over status. There is no need to beg for anyone's support or understanding because everyone has their own perspectives and personalities. We do not value ourselves, hence we worry about losing and think others do not understand us. In fact, being a good person requires knowing how to reduce personal ego a little and place yourself in others' positions to see things. Life will become much more pleasant. Therefore, the more you open your heart, the greater the joy and the broader the acceptance. Do not discuss others behind their backs, and do not need to pay too much attention to rumors about yourself. because a useless person has nothing to say, and the more outstanding you are, the more attention and criticism you will receive. In life, admitting fault is a form of honesty, while letting go is a form of style. If you send out honesty without receiving style, it shows the other person is mediocre. A noble person, when able to tolerate even the lost things in life, only cares about responsibility, not about benefits. When you are standing in a high position of the spirit, able to turn forward with hope, look down with empathy, and treat others with appreciation, you are standing in a high position of the soul. Life not only needs to look directly, but also needs to see everything clearly. Looking far away to see the whole picture, seeing through to know the world, karma is divided equally because of fame, because of words, because of actions. Clear vision is not to have given up seeking, but to have a peaceful heart and calmness. The most fearful aging of humans is not the appearance, but losing the progressive spirit. A person cannot change the external shape, but can completely improve the inner character. Changing the character will change the life accordingly. In relationships, remember kindness, enthusiasm, and honesty will bring beautiful results. Some smiles are closer than courtesy and can bring warmth to the other person. Criticizing others' mistakes when you yourself are not good, blaming your own shortcomings is not good. Using your heart to evaluate others, no one is perfect. Hiding your heart, pushing your opponent to the last path cannot make them go into an end, only harm yourself. Pushing away, staring at the good and bad in the world cannot cause anyone to lose anything, only make yourself lose time. Raise your head to look at the sky, the wide earth. A cruel person will have no friends. Being too selfish only makes you tired. Only love can create kindness, can tolerate the whole world. When you have time, sit still, reflect on mistakes. When free, do not comment on good or bad things in the world. Words, although conveying meaning, can easily cause harm. Evil karma from the mouth is nothing bigger than slander, so be careful to open your mouth. Avoid speaking unnecessary things. Even joking should have moderation. Do not slander others. Keep a bit of discretion. The way of scolding people, remember not to be too serious. Keep some leniency even if you are right. Do not overdo it. In processing matters, keep some tolerance. Do not make it too harsh. Keep some distance. Accept others to open up opportunities for yourself. Empathy with those around helps yourself become broader. A tolerant person is because they know how to use a good heart to treat life. A person of quality is due to always showing respect, treating others with appreciation. A person cultivated shows through a gentle attitude with everyone, and knowing to think of others is worthy of everyone's concern. If you respect the other party, life will respect you back. Using a gentle attitude to treat everyone will naturally make your heart become pure. A non-competitive, non-struggling attitude will not worry or fear anyone. Life's cycle returns to where it began. Sitting open-minded, paying debts is too busy, bent back and loaded down with karma. Destiny depends on all thoughts. Path goes along the living sea, dissipates the great ocean, repays feelings tied to fate. Destiny returns to the forest in autumn. Yellow leaves repay letters to pens, repay strings to music. I return to the old face now, all destinies, smart in this place, all destinies in daily relationships. Everything has its destined connections, keeping people with people. If you see others as saints, they will be saintly people. If you see others as demons, they will become scary characters. It is like looking in a mirror. If you smile, you will receive a happy face. If you smile sadly, you will see a sorrowful face. Among friends, it's the same. If you treat them with respect, reverence, they will respond gently, politely. If you despise others too much, you will receive indifference and invasion. Therefore, in life, treat friends sincerely, treat family with affection, treat loved ones with tolerance, treat enemies with forgiveness. Hold a pure mind, maintain benevolent thoughts. Dealing with everyone will gradually be received with corresponding responses in the heart. The quality of good things and quality of life will also be elevated accordingly. Character comes from the heart. Scenery changes with the heart. Kindness in the heart will be reflected outward, spreading to the surroundings, leading to good results. Humans are very simple but also very fearful. A good-heartedness can tolerate everything. A malicious heart can harm countless people. Being too cunning makes others avoid you. Being too harsh makes people resent you. Facing everything, always decide to fight to the end. Having some advantage, try to fight to get it all. In the end, what is lost is people's hearts, and you yourself become base. Therefore, when facing money, benefits, be tolerant and pay attention to not losing harmony, disputing, calculating meaning and emotion. Knowing to be tolerant a little will not be ashamed of your heart. When fighting for reputation and profit, seeing being tolerant a little to not get stressed. Accepting rumors, being unstable at the last moment, a little to not be bothered. No one is perfect, everyone has a different style. Although there are admirers, jealous people, or people who do not feel fondness, deep down each person hopes not to be entangled in petty gossip. Only those who are truly intelligent will not live too cunningly, plotting all day in various ways. They will be a little tolerant to maintain kindness and avoid endless struggles. Life is short. Knowing how to be content and satisfied is the way to achieve success. A busy life, knowing how to be tolerant and wishing you peace, will be at ease. The story of a farmer and the lesson of karma. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who specialized in farming to support himself and his family. Every day, he plowed and toiled from early morning until nightfall, exhausted before returning home. Yet, his family remained poor, lacking one thing after another, years after years suffering from floods that caused them to face hunger, scarcity, and mounting debts. One day, as he was working the fields under the scorching summer sun, he became extremely tired. He sat down to rest by the riverbank under a shady tree, looking out at the sunlit fields. He felt melancholic and thought about his own poverty-stricken life. Amidst these wandering thoughts, he felt his life was so grueling, hard, working day and night in the fields, sweating in the scorching sun, but never having a hearty meal or warm clothes, always burdened with the harshness of his own miserable existence. Suddenly, from the deep forest, a rabbit ran out and crashed into the dead tree trunk, dying instantly on the spot. The farmer naturally saw the rabbit. He rejoiced heartily and said that from now on he can escape poverty. He happily took the rabbit home to use as meat, selling half at the market for money and cooking the other half for his family. He cheerfully said to the rabbit that from now on his family would no longer live in misery and hardship, nor toil in the fields. Starting from the next day, he would just sit under the tree, waiting, believing that every day a rabbit would come to offer itself to him. So he sat at that tree from morning till evening, day after day, but for months no rabbit came. People only saw the farmer sitting and waiting with a listless face, singing sadly, looking very foolish and despairing. How could this be an enlightenment moment? Let it be. It had already taught us a valuable lesson and a more correct view of the karma doctrine. Instead of the farmer wanting to have food and clothes without effort, he should sow seeds to reap fruit. Just as to have rice, you must first plow the land, sow the seeds, weed, fertilize, lead water, cut trees, and take care of them according to the karmic process. And when conditions are favorable, there will certainly be a bountiful harvest, seeing many good results. It is precisely because of some people's mistaken belief that everything is random, when without transformation and without work, wanting to have food as the farmer does is in that case. Shallow thinking, assuming everything happens naturally, like the farmer who found a rabbit without knowing that everything has deep causes. That rabbit was scared, fleeing desperately because it was being chased by a predator, so the rabbit ran too frantically without proper direction, crashing into the dead tree and dying on the spot. As for the farmer, after many years of hard work in farming but still not making enough, facing drought and crop failures, he had to endure hunger, deficiency, and poverty. Despite his year-round dedication to farming, he still could not support his family. From then on, he dreamed of having power, imagining everything. So when he was resting tired and crying by the tree after hard work, he let his mind wander, feeling despondent and blaming his fate for his miserable life. He dreamed of pleading to heaven and earth to grant him everything, to have enough without working. The rabbit inadvertently made his dreams seem to come true. Therefore, he believed his dreams were correct, so he did not need to farm anymore and sat under the tree every day waiting. In his heart, he always hoped that a rabbit would come again to offer itself like the previous one. This is the negative thinking and attitude of some people who lack understanding and do not consider karma deeply. Wanting to eat without working and wanting to have without effort leads to a shift in mind, resulting in not only the farmer himself but also his family having to endure hunger and poverty. People often dream of beautiful things, power, or do not know that all successes and failures in life are caused by their own actions. If you see working and sowing merit leads to a warm, full life, misery, poverty, and difficulties are because past generations did not know to give, offer alms, help, share, or were greedy, corrupt, or manipulative for their own benefit, but wanting to enjoy much, to spend, to waste. Most poor and impoverished people easily give rise to those who are lost, dream of power, or desire magical things, always wishing gods or deities would help improve their lives like the farmer did. From a life of lack and hardship, when the rabbit happened to make him generate wrong thoughts and actions, he thought everything was random. Without divine help, he would give up farming and sit under the tree waiting. We simply do not deeply believe in karma, do not work and want to eat, do little but want to enjoy much. These are habits of people who lack understanding and are deluded, like the farmer sitting and waiting under the tree after finding the rabbit. All events occur with their interrelated karma. If someone believes that life in this world is predestined, fate determined by a powerful deity distributing blessings and curses, then humans will be born with irresponsible thoughts toward their own actions. If someone believes that everything is random or accepts fate as already decided, they will blame the poor and not try, then blame heaven and earth. These two extremes can lead to suffering for others. In reality, everything in this world should succeed or fail, be good or bad, right or wrong, all governed by karma. Life is not easy at all. The sweet, bitter, sad, and happy all combined can turn a life of suffering into romance, transforming a harsh world into deep emotional connections, which is true resilience. Because this world is not perfect, the sun that rises brightly soon sets in the west, the full moon turns into a crescent. Therefore, the most beautiful port is still when the moon has not fully bloomed. Not yet complete, feeling a little lacking makes it eternal. Imperfection is what defines the human world. Knowing to accept, nothing becomes a problem. Knowing to bow, you do not have to enter through the narrow door. Yielding the way keeps you from having to carry burdens and breathing heavily. Your heart will progress to always know sufficiency, and happiness will be full. Practice giving more than receiving, and people interacting with each other all use their hearts to perceive. You being good to someone, they will definitely know and respond. The foundation we demand is for the good. Ask less of others, require more of yourself. With less ambition, there will be less worry. Human life is like a unified village, born with empty hands, and upon death cannot take anything with you. Forgiving others is also liberation for yourself. Therefore, practice living simply. Life is inherently not complex. Practice living as simply as possible. Spend time caring more about family and friends. You will feel the joy and meaning of life.
Hello everyone, welcome to Mind Podcast Buddhism, the best channel for sharing knowledge about Buddhism. Today we will talk about the topic, rebirth according to karma. In this episode, we will explore how our actions and behaviors in life influence our rebirth, using the profound example given by Venerable Narada Thera about the inclination of a tree and the momentum of karma. Understanding these concepts can help us grasp how our karmic energy drives our future lives and shapes our rebirths. Views of religions and philosophers on the afterlife. The question of where we come from and where we go after death has intrigued people throughout history. Both religions and philosophical schools have endeavored to find answers to these profound questions. Various religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, Protestantism, Islam, Hinduism, and Confucianism, believe that human life is a gift from God, who uses the mother's womb to form life. Ancient Greek philosophers believed that humans originated from earth, water, air, and fire. Modern materialist philosophers argue that humans come from matter. Each perspective on the origin of human life leads to different theories about death and the afterlife. Materialists believe that after death, humans return to their material origins. They view human life as a single existence in the present, emerging from matter, developing consciousness, living and working in the world, aging, becoming ill, and dying as the final end, with nothing after death. Buddhism considers this a limited view, referred to as annihilationism. In the biological world, including humans and animals, death is not the final end but a transition to another existence. Theistic religions believe that humans are created by God, and that there are two possible destinations after death, heaven or hell. Believers who follow God's teachings go to heaven to enjoy eternal life, while non-believers or those who question religious doctrines are condemned to eternal hell. Buddhism also considers this view limited, as it does not reflect the complexity of cause and effect in human actions, speech, deeds, and thoughts. In the Heart Sutra, the Buddha stated that all phenomena are neither born nor destroyed. This profound statement implies that everything does not simply come into existence or cease to exist. Modern science supports this idea through the principle of energy conservation. For instance, rain from clouds eventually evaporates and returns as clouds again, demonstrating that energy changes form but is not lost. Human life, according to Buddhism, is not created by a deity. Buddhism teaches that the concept of God is a human creation based on superstition. A German philosopher once stated, "God is dead," meaning that as human knowledge, science, and morality develop, belief in God diminishes. The belief that death is the end leads to a carefree and indulgent lifestyle. If there is no difference in the outcomes for good and evil people, why strive for virtue? While some people may not believe in an afterlife but still lead good lives due to moral upbringing and positive influences, others may become reckless, leading to negative consequences and deepening into the mire of bad karma and crime. Letting go to pass away peacefully. The state of regret can delay the process of rebirth for one or several lifetimes. Near-death karma is the perception, attitude, and actions during the final moments before death. In the process of rebirth, some individuals become engrossed in the beauty of flowers and unusual plants along the way, forgetting their path, purpose, and destination. Practitioners of the Pure Land sect aim for the Western Pure Land. However, if they do not focus their mind on the Western Pure Land, but instead on the newly built house they haven't yet enjoyed, they might be reborn as a child or grandchild in that house. Although sometimes hard to believe, these things are real. Historical figures who served their country with integrity, selflessly dedicating their lives to their homeland, but were wrongly accused due to slander, often face severe consequences like the extermination of their families. For instance, Nguyen Trai was posthumously exonerated centuries later, and many other distinguished generals experienced similar fates. Those who die with unresolved grievances, if not trained in the art of letting go, find it difficult to attain liberation. They linger in the injustice of their tarnished reputation, burdened by shame and pain, mocked by history. This unresolved state delays their departure. In such situations, spirits often return to guide their descendants to help them resolve their grievances. A Japanese Zen story teaches a profound lesson with just 2 words, "Is that so?" This phrase is used to release resentment, avoiding complaints or blaming others, viewing the matter as unworthy of concern. With a smile, it helps one accept and release their karma. However, Buddhism advises that to resolve grievances, one must speak up and explain. The Baovung Tamui says, "Grievances need not be explained because explaining is cowardice." I advise against this, as the Buddha's teachings in the sutras are more reliable. The Buddha, throughout his life, faced countless false accusations and slander. In each case, he responded by saying, "This is not within me. I am not the author of this accusation." Whether people believed him or not was up to them. At least, in terms of social responsibility and revealing the truth, he fulfilled his duty without falling into the trap of feeling victimized. This helped alleviate the burden of false accusations to some extent. If grievances are not voiced, people might believe the falsehoods, leading to widespread slander and loss of faith in moral values, causing many obstacles in life. In a monarchy, self-exoneration was challenging, as the king might not listen, and there might be no opportunity to explain. However, by declaring that one is not the author of the accusation, one learns the lesson of letting go, without resentment towards those who wrongfully accuse or harm them. Practicing this way, one avoids obstacles in the process of rebirth, which could otherwise take several decades, centuries, or even thousands of years. Thus, in the process of dying, those with unresolved grievances who do not let go remain entangled in their resentment, delaying the process of rebirth. Another story tells of a highly virtuous monk who, in his later years, developed a deep passion for gardening. His meticulously tended garden became part of his life. When he passed away, his attachment to the garden caused him to be reborn as a worm in that very garden. Fortunately, another monk recognized this and said to the worm, "You are a virtuous monk. Do not cling to these beautiful flowers." This reminder helped the worm awaken, relinquish its attachment, and be reborn as a monk, continuing on the bodhisattva path. Such stories should not be dismissed or disbelieved. In the final years of life, one should not let greed, anger, or ignorance influence them. Holding on to regrets, hatred, resentment, or injustice contaminates the mind, trapping one in a realm incongruent with their accumulated merit. During the transitional period, being ensnared causes accumulated merits to be lost, remaining as potential energy without an opportunity to manifest. Through self-effort or rituals for the deceased, if one can let go of attachments, the energy for rebirth can align with compatible karma. The psychology of near-death karma. The mind's desire for a particular place influences the rebirth energy to lead us towards that destination. Sudden psychological changes at the last moments before death can lead to positive or negative outcomes. Some individuals who spent their lives doing wrong might, in their final years, receive guidance towards righteousness and ethics, leading them to repent, perform good deeds, practice vegetarianism, and accumulate merit, which can result in a favorable near-death karma and subsequent rebirth. Conversely, those who practice superficially, without truly transforming their inner self or attaining complete purity, may find their near-death karma leading to a less favorable rebirth. Take the example of a cirrhotic patient who is often advised by traditional medicine to eat finely chopped snails, especially raw, to nourish the liver and delay the progression of cirrhosis, leading to death. Dutiful Buddhist children and grandchildren might hesitate, unsure whether to follow this traditional medical advice. They come to the temple for guidance, and my suggestion is to discuss this with the patient before making a decision. Whether they negotiate or make the decision themselves, I advise them to weigh 3 factors. 1. Duration of life extension. How long can this traditional treatment prolong the patient's life? If medical advice suggests only a year or a few months, depending on the stage of the disease, then this may not be the best solution. The inevitable death might be delayed, but often at the cost of prolonged suffering, extending the patient's pain and suffering. 2. Ethical implications. The daily killing in preparation of dozens of snails over a year increases the act of killing by hundreds of times. The merit gained from extending the patient's life does not compensate for the negative karma incurred, which can lead to shortened lifespans and increased suffering in future rebirths. 3. Mental state. During the time sustained by such actions involving killing, can the family maintain a peaceful mind towards a blissful realm, or will they live in constant fear of death? Dying in a state of mental crisis is extremely harmful. Instead, guiding the patient's mind towards acceptance of life and death, understanding that everyone must face death eventually, is more beneficial. The length of life is less important than the quality and meaning of how one lives. If we live doing good, avoiding evil, and being happy, this karma will create a similar peaceful near-death karma, leading to a calm and gentle passing. This is a blessing for both the deceased and their family. Older individuals, when advised by doctors to eat whatever they wish, should not indulge excessively. Overindulgence can hasten death, and such indulgent karma can influence them to be reborn as beings who also live for pleasure in their next life. Those who have lived virtuously might find their final moments negatively influenced if they indulge excessively, turning their good karma into bad. If diagnosed with a terminal illness with only a short time left, Buddhists should remain calm and say, "Is that so?" This state of non-fear creates a positive mental energy that can lead to a peaceful death. This immunity depends on a positive or negative mindset. In 2003, UNICEF sponsored my visit to 10 Buddhist aid centers along the border of Chiang Rai, Chiang Mai, and Chiang Nai between Thailand and Myanmar. The patients there were poor rural Thais, Lacking health protection knowledge, poverty, and the lure of easy money led many women to fall victim to the epidemic. Visiting patients in the final stages, I would recite a sutra in Vietnamese. During the chanting, I observed some patients trying to sit up. Among them was a woman in her 30s, frail and unable to sit up. I signaled for her to lie down. She tried to put her hands together in a gesture of respect, but was too weak to do so. As I continued to chant, she passed away before I finished the Great Compassion mantra. Her lips formed a faint smile as she took her last breath. This positive state suggests a favorable rebirth. Learning about this woman, the resident monk informed me that she had been diagnosed only 3 years prior. Negative psychological attitudes and the fear of death tormented her. She cursed her husband who had infected her and her child. This negative mindset caused her immune system to plummet, leading to an earlier death. In contrast, at another temple, a woman had lived with the disease for over 10 years but remained healthy. She chanted sutras and recited the Buddha's name daily. Besides practicing, she wove bamboo crafts to earn income for treatment. She expressed no fear of death, relying on the Triple Gem's blessings and the care of monks. This joy and happiness created an immunity that extended her life. I believe, if Buddhist charity centers can provide end-of-life support similar to Thailand, it would be highly commendable. Choosing the realm of rebirth. The key to ensuring a peaceful transition at the time of death lies in training and mastering the mind during life. When impermanence and death come, one should maintain a state of undisturbed concentration, directing the mind towards the Western Pure Land to depart peacefully. Alternatively, if one desires to continue living on this planet, aspiring to become a scientist, educator, artist, philanthropist, etc., one should direct the mind towards these goals. In this way, the individual will continue to be reborn into families compatible with their karmic affinities, allowing them to fulfill their duties and aspirations. Following one's aspirations ensures a destination for rebirth. The realm of rebirth is determined by one's karma or vows. In the map of the 10 realms, 6 realms belong to the ordinary world and 4 realms belong to the holy world. The 4 holy realms include Buddha, Bodhisattva, Arhat, and Sravaka. Sravaka includes Pratyeka Buddha and solitary enlightened ones. The 6 ordinary realms include 1. Heavenly beings, devas. These are beings from other planets who possess greater blessings, longevity, physical form, health, and peace compared to humans on this Saha world. 2. Humans. Our human existence on this Saha world is considered average in terms of blessings and karma. 3. Asuras. Known as deities in Vietnam, asuras are worshipped in communal houses, ding, and goddesses in shrines, mu. In the northern culture, communal houses are often built next to temples. These places honor officials and generals who contributed to the country, known as local deities. This reflects a culture of gratitude and recognition of those who served the homeland. 4. Animals. Those who lived indulging in sensory pleasures to the point of depravity, harboring evil and animalistic tendencies, or being overly attached to possessions may be reborn as animals. This is a great misfortune because animals lack the development of consciousness. As animals, it is uncertain when one can be reborn as a human. However, animals in circuses that possess strong extrasensory perception and can follow human training might have their karma transformed and be reborn as humans more quickly. Number 5. Hungry ghosts. Contrary to popular belief, hungry ghosts do not dwell underground. The notion of the underworld is a myth. Instead, they exist in an intermediate state after death due to attachment and regret. These spirits can be found in graves, altars, near or inside our homes, or where death occurred. They are present during both day and night and often seek help from the living. Hence, we should not fear ghosts, but rather show compassion and support them through rituals to help them let go of their suffering. 6. Hell beings. Hell is not a physical place, but a concept used to teach about karma. Descriptions of hell and hungry ghosts in Buddhism show similar characteristics. The real hell is the continuous suffering experienced in this world. Unhappy marriages filled with constant conflict, creating an unending cycle of hatred and pain, are examples of living hells. Continual acts of evil that cause suffering for others also constitute creating hell on earth. In truth, there are 8 realms. The 3 holy realms are Buddha, Bodhisattva, and Arhat. Arhats are also referred to as Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, or solitary enlightened ones. The 5 ordinary realms are humans, heavenly beings, asuras, hungry ghosts, and animals. These realms are determined by one's karmic consciousness or blessings. Therefore, at the time of death, one's rebirth follows their karma or blessings. In the Daily Recitation book, the Daily Recitation compilation of 49 sutras, which I compiled in 1994 and has been reprinted many times, there is a contemplation in the repentance section as follows. All sentient beings must age, none can escape the twilight hour. All sentient beings must bear illness, none can remain forever hale and hearty. All sentient beings must face death, none can evade the time of demise. All sentient beings must endure separation, leaving behind everything, going alone, carrying the karma of 3 lifetimes, following us like a shadow, never letting go. Now I take refuge in the Dharma King, attaining nirvana, auspicious and joyful. This is a truth to be acknowledged. The process of rebirth depends greatly on one's karma. Good karma leads to favorable rebirths, while bad karma leads to unfavorable ones. Believing in karma ensures a peaceful realm of rebirth. The most crucial aspect is to let go of attachments to depart peacefully. Where do we go after death? Death is not the end. The Buddhist perspective asserts that when humans or animals pass away, it is not the end but rather a continuation, like a dot connecting with other dots along a straight path. This path's length and breadth, its early or late end, depend on the psychological nature and actions of the individual or animal. During the Buddha's time, many dialogues recorded in the long discourses discussed the nature of death and the concept of life after death. Ancient materialist philosophers of India, such as the Carvakas, believed that after death, the physical and mental body, composed of 5 elements, physical structure, emotional flow, conceptualization, discriminative perception, and mental operations, would return to dust. They posited that consciousness is merely a component of matter. This doctrine has been maximized in modern materialism, influencing socialist countries significantly. The Buddha presented numerous evidences to refute the idea that death is the absolute end, suggesting that the cessation of a phenomenon without continuation is a flawed concept. His teachings, especially as encapsulated in the Diamond Sutra, emphasize neither arising nor ceasing. This philosophy suggests that if phenomena do not originate without cause, their continuity cannot end without cause either. They transform from one form to another, depending on conditions, environment, circumstances, and collective karma of beings in the universe. Consider the act of throwing a ball against a wall. When it hits the wall, some might think the ball's journey ends since it has left the hand. From a 2-dimensional spatial perspective, this seems true. We no longer see the ball in the hand. However, from a multi-dimensional spatial perspective, the ball's movement continues from the hand to the wall and beyond. The impact creates a rebound force, leading to further movements until the force dissipates, and even then it causes reactions in its surroundings. By analyzing this rebound effect, we see that the process continues indefinitely. The complex and diverse nature of these reactions means that from a physical perspective, nothing truly ends. Therefore, death is not the end. Materialist philosophers' notion that death is the end, contrasted with the Buddha's view of life after death, ties into the ethical dimension. Many ancient Indian materialists rejected the idea of an afterlife. While they lived morally upright lives, the Buddha cautioned that such a belief could lead to harmful behaviors, as it negates the incentive to act ethically if life and death are seen as ultimately the same. Belief in a next life encourages a sense of moral responsibility regarding one's actions, words, and deeds. This belief, even if the afterlife proves non-existent, benefits the community and society. The concept of neither arising nor ceasing outlines the continuous flow of beings, with each point being a part of life. Life and death interweave within this process, suggesting that we die and regenerate in every moment, biologically and physically. This Buddhist view aligns with modern biological and physical theories. From a physical standpoint, clinical death is marked by brain inactivity, cessation of the heartbeat, and sensory shutdown. However, this is only a partial assessment of death's nature and may not fully align with the Buddhist understanding. In the scriptures, the Buddha presents a metaphor involving a candle. When the candle is lit, what was once unlit becomes a flame. The flame can flicker if we shake it or if a gust of wind blows, causing the light to waver due to air movement. If this force is too strong, the flame can be extinguished. The Buddha then asks, what happens to the flame? Some monks answered that the flame would go in the direction of the wind. If the wind blew from the left, the flame would go out from left to right, from east to west, or from north to south, and vice versa. Many other monks remained silent. The Buddha responded by saying that seeking and defining the direction in which the flame goes is unnecessary. If we assume the flame has a direction, we should observe how it moves. However, discussing the flame's direction after it has been extinguished is not appropriate. This example was given to explain death, specifically the departure of genuine practitioners who have lived a stable life of practice and attained peace in this life. Speculating about their rebirth direction is inappropriate because they will depart according to their wishes. So, where do we go after death? Death follows our wishes. This explanation has not satisfied many Buddhist scholars due to its brevity and lack of comprehensive detail about the meaning of departure. Scholars often want to delve into philosophical propositions or predictions about the Buddha's death and afterlife, leaving them unsatisfied and continuing to ask similar questions. The Buddha redirected them to the present life, emphasizing the importance of asking questions and seeking solutions for a peaceful, happy, and tranquil life, rather than pondering where the flame goes after it is extinguished. In the Great Nirvana Sutra, the Buddha provided an answer to satisfy the curious. He used the metaphor of the sun's 12-hour rotation during the day. When the day ends, darkness begins to appear. In the Buddha's time, people did not have knowledge about space, the sun, the moon, or life on other planets. The Buddha used simple metaphors to explain the death and rebirth of enlightened beings, comparing it to the sun. When night falls, it does not mean the sun is gone. It continues to shine on the other side of the earth, indicating it still exists and functions. This demonstrates that the death and rebirth of enlightened beings follow their wishes, provided there are conditions and opportunities to benefit sentient beings. This explanation satisfies philosophical inquiries about the nature of post-death existence for great monks. But what about ordinary people like us? Where do we go after death? The answer lies entirely in the attitude of the person departing. Rebirth according to karma. Venerable Nada the Thera presented a profound example using the image of a tree. No matter how straight a tree stands, it will always have a certain inclination. For example, a mahogany tree, an areca palm, or a coconut tree. If you try to cut it with a machine or by hand, you will surely see that the tree falls in the direction of its lean. So which way does it fall? It will inevitably fall towards its inclination. Even if a tree stands tall and upright, just a gust of wind blowing along its inclination will cause it to fall. If the inclination is around 100 degrees or more, the tree will fall even before it is completely cut through. The outer bark will break instantly. Similarly, the flow of karma is reflected in people's professions and positions. Repeated actions form the momentum of behavior. This momentum pushes the rebirth process along a certain trajectory, sometimes leaving the deceased or those about to pass away without a choice. They must go along the path driven by karma, and this force creates the diverse phenomena of life with varying inborn factors like personality, culture, and customs. The preservation of different customs and traditions is not by chance. During the process of rebirth, all cultural habits, customs, and behaviors accumulate in the form of karmic energy. This karmic energy drives an individual from the moment life begins as a new embryo in the mother's womb. In the Ulambana Sutra, the Buddha mentions the interaction between the embryo and the mother's personality. If the child is unruly, it will kick and cause pain to the mother, or instead of emerging head first, it may present feet first. This is a physical manifestation, and if the person's upbringing is not good, they will tend to follow the momentum of the karma that has been planted, often irresistibly. The personality attaches to an individual from the moment they exist as an embryo. That is why geniuses, prodigies, or individuals with special talents in certain fields are not a result of random chance or the creation of a deity, but are defined by their karma. I had the opportunity to watch the Hollywood movie Kundun, which portrays the life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The film's beginning is fascinating, depicting the search for the 14th Dalai Lama's reincarnation. The 13th Dalai Lama left a will indicating that he would be reborn in the Hasa region, a border area of Tibet, into a family devout in Buddhism, with certain specific traits described in his will. About 6 years after his passing, the monks began searching for his reincarnation based on the will. Upon reaching a certain village, the search party was impressed when they saw a boy playing with other children. This boy had a very kind, compassionate face. The children were playing a game of making crickets fight, and they were all cheering when one cricket won. While the other children were joyously clapping, Kundan reacted differently. He stepped in, separating the children, and using his hands to pull the crickets apart, setting one cricket far away so they couldn't fight again. Kundan did not allow the children to derive joy from the suffering of the crickets, showing a natural compassion. A 6-year-old boy with such compassion, without being taught about peace or compromise, strongly indicated that he was the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, considered a living Buddha, an incarnation of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of great compassion. However, this was not enough to definitively determine that he was the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, so further tests were conducted. The 13th Dalai Lama had a habit of using an old, shabby pair of glasses. In a test, several pairs of new, attractive glasses were placed alongside the old pair. Despite the appeal of the new glasses, the boy Kundun chose the old pair used by the 13th Dalai Lama. The old glasses, though not beautiful, were cherished by the Dalai Lama, indicating a personal connection only the owner would feel. This was the second indication confirming the reincarnation. Another test involved seating arrangements. According to Tibetan tradition, the Dalai Lama always sat in the center during ceremonies, being both a spiritual and national leader. During a family meal, Kundun sat in his father's seat at the center. When told by his father to move, Kundun insisted, "No, this is my seat." This behavior was not about asserting ego, but about demonstrating his rightful place and responsibility. Yet another test involved a walking stick used by the 13th Dalai Lama. Many similar sticks were presented, but Kundun chose the one that belonged to the Dalai Lama. The identification of the reincarnation often involves such tests, showing that the personality and qualities of the previous and current lives are fundamentally linked by karma. The continuity of karma ensures that traits, habits, and qualities persist from one life to the next, although they may be influenced by education, customs, environment, and interactions. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who might benefit from it. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button, follow, and turn on the notification bell. This is how you can show your support for me. Once again, thank you very much, and see you in the next videos.